So the Green Bay Packers just extended Christian Watson, and there's a lot of like mixed reviews going on about that contract, like why people don't, they see that big 100 million number and their eyes get wide and they say, how could you give this guy, and then post a picture of his box scores from the previous 3 seasons and say, how could you give this guy over 100 M's? To me, it's more nuanced than that. I think there's more to look at with Christian Watson than that. There's more underneath the surface of what Christian Watson is as a player and why the Packers did this, why they feel like they were okay doing this. I, overall, before I even break anything down, think just for the upside of this, and I'll go into why I feel like the upside is great with this contract. The sample size we have and the statistics that we have with Christian Watson will lead you to believe that he's one of the most explosive wide receivers in all of football. He is an explosive offense literally by himself. 16.5% explosive play rate with Green Bay's offense last year when he was on the field versus 10% when he's off the field. Now, you could attribute that to a couple of different things: the Tucker Kraft injury, the lack of a consistent run game, whatever you want to chalk it up to, just Jordan Love being inconsistent, that's fine. It's a majority Christian Watson thing. To me, I totally understand where Gutekunst is coming from with giving out this extension because, like I mentioned earlier, he's one of the most explosive wide receivers in the league. He's paid about where he should be in terms of, like, if he's healthy, I expect him to be with this group of players. He's paid around T. Higgins. He's paid around Alec Pierce. I get that. That's about where he should be. When I see people complain that he is incredibly overpaid and then just show like his box score stats, it just pisses me. It doesn't make sense to me. There's so much more to understand than just that. So pulling from 2025, it's not a lot to pull from. It's a very small sample size. I mean, he had 55 targets last year. There's not a lot to pull from. But what we are pulling from shows he is one of the best and most explosive wide receivers in all of football. I almost said he's one of the best receivers in football. He's not, but he is one of the most explosive downfield. He has an average target distance, an ADOT, of 17.8. It puts him third in the NFL last year. And typically you want your wide receiver one, your alpha guys, to be the ones creating the distance downfield, creating the explosion downfield. That's what they do. They're the best at it. They're typically the fastest guys. They have the most elusivity in the hips. They have the best footwork. Christian Watson, it doesn't really fit a lot of those things, but what Christian Watson does do is get out of his stance fast and maintains that speed and acceleration all the way down the field and throughout his routes. Even if they aren't the cleanest routes, he is moving at a speed faster than a lot of wide receivers, and a lot of corners can cover. He had a deep target share percentage of 42.9%. That puts him top 10. That's where he does his damage. He doesn't really do his damage on wide receiver screens, quick hitters, RPOs. It's a lot of play action, downfield, 20-plus yards, 15-plus yards. I believe his average depth, 17.8. Yeah, so he likes to hover around the 18 to 30 plus yard range. That's where he succeeds at the most. He's got a 2.65 yards per route run. This kind of goes to your ADOT. You typically want your best receivers running the longest routes, the routes that create explosive plays, create movement downfield. So that's not too abnormal. The formation adjusted yards per route run sits at 2.27, which is top 5 as well. Yards per target sits at 11.1. Once again, that goes into his yards per reception, which is 17.5. He's just somebody who lives downfield. That's where he makes his money, is down the field. He had 2 drops last year, a 3.6% drop rate, which is down from a 4.7% drop rate from 2024. So that's consistently getting better. That was something you were scared of going into the NFL from college, was the drop rate, but he seems to have cleaned that up, and that's not really something you have to worry about as much now. He had 38.7 total EPA added last year. That's top 30. He barely played last year. Barely played last year. So to me, Christian Watson is an unrealized, hyper-explosive weapon that can get you 12 to 1,400 yards every single year if he were to be able to stay healthy for a full season. That's kind of what I see with Christian Watson. Now, I understand the scare with taking that kind of chance if you're Goot and he hasn't given you a reason to believe he can stay on the field. I understand that, but I also see the vision of he can give you a 16-game season, 1 16 or 2 16, 17-game seasons. He's going to be sitting, or you rather are going to be sitting on the best value wide receiver contract in all of football. It's not even close. To me, I understand the fear and I understand the disliking of it. And if we want to even take this back to 2024, maybe you think this isn't like sustainable. He played 15 games in 2024. He had a 17.8 average target distance, ADOT. He is top 2 in the league. I mean, that still tracks. 2.54 yards per route run, still top 10 in the league. He had a 2.15 yards per route run adjusted formation. That was almost top 10 in the league, number 11. Yards per target sat at 11.7. He had yards per reception of 21.4. He's just as explosive, man. Like, he is just an explosive play machine waiting to happen. He needs to stay healthy, and like, that's not something to scoff at. Like, he obviously needs to stay healthy. But if he can stay healthy, absolutely get the vision, understand what they were doing with this. I think this was a solid chance to take if you're Green Bay.